Hello class, welcome to Jesus Mission and Ministry Week 6. Back on me front porch, and we have a difficult subject today, suffering. We'll look at the suffering of Jesus, but let it inform how do we deal with suffering. And I don't know whether what I'm going to give you is a really Catholic view of suffering, or if it's just Christian, or if it's just human. So I'll be interested if you want to comment on that when you do your posts, because of course we need to convey what is a Catholic understanding of this. But to do ministry, we need to understand how do other people see this, how does that fit in. So I know you're not all Catholic, so any insights you could share about other approaches to suffering would be helpful to me particularly, but I think to everyone. So I want to do something a wee bit different today for you. I want to talk about Julian of Norwich. She was an anchorite, a woman who lived in a little cell attached to a church in medieval England, and living a life of prayer. And she had these visions. She had prayed for years that she would be sick unto death, suffering so much that it would help her understand the suffering of Jesus and of Mary at the foot of the cross. Well, be careful what you ask for. God granted it to her, and many other visions as well. And Julian speaks about these revelations that she's had in a short book, and then after 30 years she expanded it into, but this is what it really means. 30 years of meditating on it, And I just want to share 3 pieces of her vision because it deals a lot with this and has a very interesting approach. First of all, she says sin is horrible, and you can tell that something is sin because it causes pain. It's the pain that's the worst part of sin. But she says, but sin is not shameful, because not only does everybody sin, but eventually God turns around sin. When he forgives it and reconciles it, he turns it around. So what was our sin becomes our greatest strength. So we should be proud of our sin. Not that we should go commit more of them, causing more pain in the world, but not run from the ones that we've done, because God will transform them in the end, and in the end all will be well. How does that happen? Well, Jesus is suffering on the cross, of course, and his resurrection. And she had this vision. When she's dying, there was a crucifix there, and she's looking at it, and suddenly it came alive. And blood was pouring from under that crown of thorns by the bucketful. She said it was like rain running off the roof in a snowstorm. She said, but with all that blood, all I could see in Jesus' eyes was joy. Joy. And she asked him about it. And he said, oh, my dear child, if I could have suffered more, I would have loved to have done that. Not if I had to suffer more, if I could have suffered more. I suffered as much as I possibly could, and it was a joy because I was accomplishing your salvation through that suffering. So Jesus saw his suffering as a beautiful, wonderful thing, as a joy, because he knew it was accomplishing their salvation. It's an interesting idea. Now, this is Julian, which is very Catholic, but not everybody would agree with it. Not all Catholics, but 'tis something to think about. But then she has another vision to kind of flesh that out. And I use that meaningfully because Julian was a very earthy kind of visionary. She was meditating on the wound of Jesus in his side, where they thrust in the sword and then out comes blood and water. And most theologians with that, they will say, yes, the blood and the water, that's for one thing, the blood of Christ, the wine, and the water of the Spirit. And so that we get baptized in. So that's the sacraments of the church flowing from the side of Jesus. And there's a wonderful, repeated often, but the one I'm thinking of is Dominic standing there with a chalice, catching that blood pouring out of Jesus' side as the Eucharist in a chalice, But Catherine says, I looked into that wound and I could see it was a delectable place. And everyone who was going to be saved had a place inside of there. We were all sheltered in that wound that has now in her vision become a womb, a place for us to develop and grow and be birthed into this new life. So she calls Jesus our mother, who loves us as a mother because he feeds us with his own flesh like a mother does, and he cares for us like a mother. And God, of course, has to be Father and Mother to be all things. So the Father is Father, and Jesus is Mother, and the Spirit is Lord. But Jesus would not have a womb if he did not have this wound, if he had not got stabbed in his side. So it was his suffering, his being tortured, that allowed him to become our mother, caring for us as only a mother would. Always chasing after us, not hating us because of our sin, but picking us up and dusting us off and helping us to become better. 'Tis a powerful view of suffering. And the point of Jesus' suffering. And the point is, can we unite our own suffering with that of Jesus' suffering? Can we see how our own suffering, when we embrace it and understand it and do good with it, can become salvific to the people we love, that we care about, and maybe for ourselves as well. So there's some thoughts to go along with the other things that you're reading, and I think our discussion will be good this week. We all have to deal with suffering. God bless you.